No country on earth has been fought over, destroyed, rebuilt and fought over again quite like Israel. 3,000 years of kings, prophets, conquerors and exiles. Babylonians, Romans, Crusaders, Ottomans and the British all came and went. Yet the land remained, and so did the people connected to it. From King David's Jerusalem to the Holocaust survivors who built a modern state from nothing, this is a story that shaped the entire Western world. This is the entire history of Israel. Around 10,000 BC, the Jordan Valley holds some of the earliest farming communities on Earth. The landscape here is dry hills, rocky ridges, and the thin green ribbon of the Jordan River cutting south toward the Dead Sea. Small groups of people build mud brick settlements, tend early crops, and establish the first permanent human roots in what will one day become the most contested piece of land in human history. But what came next would take thousands of years to fully take shape. By around 1800 BC, Canaanite city-states dominate this land. Fortified hilltop towns with stone walls, open markets, and temples to local gods rise across the region. Traders move between Egypt to the south and Mesopotamia to the north. The land sits at the center of everything. Every major ancient trade route passes through it. That geography is both its blessing and its permanent curse. Around 1000 BC, King David unifies the Israelite tribes and captures Jerusalem. He makes it his capital, turning a modest hilltop stronghold into the political and spiritual center of a new kingdom. The image here shows Jerusalem's earliest walls rising above the Kidron Valley, guards posted at the gates, and the city beginning its long transformation into one of the most sacred places on earth. What most people never learn is that David's kingdom almost collapsed before it was fully built. David's son Solomon expands the kingdom and constructs the first temple on Mount Moriah around 957 BC. This is the structure that defines Israelite identity for generations. Stone by stone, cedar timber shipped from Lebanon, craftsmen working bronze and gold, the temple becomes the house of God in Jewish tradition. Jerusalem under Solomon draws merchants, diplomats, and pilgrims from across the ancient world. In 722 BC, the Assyrian Empire destroys the northern kingdom of Israel. King Sargon II deports tens of thousands of Israelites, scattering them across the empire. The 10 northern tribes disappear from history. Only the southern kingdom of Judah survives, centered on Jerusalem, carrying the full weight of Israelite identity forward alone. In less than a century, half the kingdom was gone. Babylon finishes what Assyria started. In 586 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar II destroys Jerusalem and burns the first temple to the ground. The image shows the city in flames, its walls broken, its people marched east in chains toward Babylon. Thousands of Judeans are deported. The Babylonian exile reshapes Jewish identity permanently. A people defined not by a land they possess, but by a covenant they carry. 50 years later, Persia's Cyrus the Great conquers Babylon and issues a decree allowing the Jewish exiles to return home. Around 538 BC, the first groups make the long journey back to Jerusalem. The second temple rises on the same ground as the first, completed around 516 BC. It is smaller, simpler, built by a community still finding its footing, but it stands. The consequences of Cyrus's decree are still felt in Jerusalem today. Alexander the Great sweeps through the region in 332 BC, ending Persian rule without a major battle. Greek culture floods the land. Cities are rebuilt in Hellenistic style, colonnaded streets, gymnasiums, public theaters. Some Jews embrace Greek culture, others resist it violently. That tension explodes in 167 BC, when the Seleucid king Antiochus IV desecrates the Second Temple, triggering the Maccabean revolt led by Judah Maccabee and his brothers. The Maccabees win. They recapture Jerusalem in 164 BC and rededicate the temple, the event still commemorated in Hanukkah. For roughly a century, an independent Jewish state called the Hasmonean Kingdom controls the land. It is the last period of Jewish political independence for 2,000 years. Without that revolt, Jewish identity might not have survived the ancient world at all. Rome arrives in 63 BC. General Pompey marches into Jerusalem and enters the temple's inner sanctum, an act that shocks the Jewish population to its core. Rome does not destroy the city. Instead, it absorbs Judea into its empire, eventually appointing Herod the Great as client king in 37 BC. Herod rebuilds the Second Temple on a scale that stuns the ancient world. The retaining walls he constructs still stand today. The western section is known as the Western Wall. Roman Emperor Hadrian crushes a second Jewish revolt in 1935 AD. Led by Simon Bar Kokhba, Hadrian then bans Jews from Jerusalem entirely, renames the city Aelia Capitolina, and renames the province Syria Palestina. The Jewish people enter nearly 2,000 years of diaspora, scattered across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, maintaining identity through text, law, and memory rather than territory. Byzantine Christian rule transforms Jerusalem from the 4th century onward. Emperor Constantine's mother Helena identifies the holy sites connected to Jesus, and grand churches rise across the city. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, built around 335 AD, stands over the site of the crucifixion and resurrection. Jerusalem becomes a Christian pilgrimage destination, drawing visitors from across the empire. But the city would change hands again, and nobody saw it coming as fast as it did. In 638 AD, the Arab Muslim commander Umar ibn al-Khattab accepts the peaceful surrender of Jerusalem from Byzantine forces. The city enters the Islamic world. The Dome of the Rock rises on the Temple Mount in 691 AD, under Caliph Abd al-Malik, its golden dome becoming the most recognizable silhouette in Jerusalem's skyline. The city now holds sacred meaning for 3 of the world's major religions simultaneously. Crusader armies from Western Europe captured Jerusalem in 1099, massacring much of its Muslim and Jewish population. The Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem rules for nearly a century until Saladin, the Kurdish Muslim general and Sultan of Egypt, recaptures the city in 1187. Saladin's forces enter without a massacre, a deliberate contrast to what the Crusaders had done. What Saladin chose not to do in 1187 shaped how the world remembers him 1,000 years later. Ottoman Sultan Selim I captures Jerusalem in 1517, without significant resistance. 400 years of Ottoman rule follow. Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent rebuilds Jerusalem's city walls between 1537 and 1541, the walls still standing and visible today. Under the Ottomans, Jerusalem is stable but peripheral, a holy city far from the empire's political centers of power. The 20th century tears the land apart and remakes it entirely. Britain captures Ottoman Palestine in 1917 and issues the Balfour Declaration supporting a Jewish homeland in the region. Jewish immigration accelerates through the 1920s and 1930s as anti-Semitism in Europe turns genocidal. 6 million Jews are murdered in the Holocaust. The survivors who reach Palestine find a land already home to hundreds of thousands of Arab Palestinians. The collision of 2 peoples with claims to the same land produces a conflict still unresolved. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion declares the establishment of the State of Israel. The next day, 5 Arab armies invade. Israel survives. The image shows Ben-Gurion reading the declaration in Tel Aviv. The faces in the room carrying everything: relief, exhaustion, disbelief, and the full weight of 3,000 years finally arriving at this moment. Israel has survived destruction, exile, diaspora, genocide, and war. It has been conquered by Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Crusaders, and Ottomans. Every conqueror eventually left. The land, the language, and the people endured. From David's Jerusalem to Ben-Gurion's declaration, Israel remains one of history's most extraordinary stories of survival. If you enjoy seeing history come alive, hit subscribe and tell us which civilization we cover next.